Hi friends, in semiconductors we shall try to understand extrinsic semiconductors in the current session. As told you earlier, pure semiconductor is what is known as intrinsic semiconductor. But when you make a pure semiconductor into an impure semiconductor, then it becomes an extrinsic semiconductor. So when the impurities are added to an intrinsic semiconductor, then it becomes an extrinsic semiconductor. An extrinsic semiconductor shows remarkable variations in conductivity because of the presence of impurities. Depending upon the type of impurity added to the intrinsic semiconductors, extrinsic semiconductors are of again two types. One is called N-type extrinsic semiconductor, that is negative type, and the other is P-type extrinsic semiconductor, that is positive type. First let us look at N-type extrinsic semiconductors. When a small amount of pentavalent impurity, that is valency 5, when a pentavalent impurity like phosphorus or arsenic or antimony is added to the intrinsic semiconductor, generally intrinsic semiconductor, here in this case we take silicon. So when a pentavalent impurity like phosphorus is added to the intrinsic semiconductor silicon, then the impurity atoms occupy one of the positions of silicon atom. So 4 of the valence electrons of phosphorus form 4 covalent bonds with adjacent silicon atoms. The 5th electron, because it is pentavalent, the 5th electron is left free. So at 0 Kelvin, this electron is bound to the phosphorus atom with an energy of 0.45 electron volts, 0.045 electron volts, right? If you look at the energy band diagram in this case, it will have valence and conduction bands separated by energy gap. So nearer to the conduction band, we can have donor energy level. ED is the donor energy level corresponding to the phosphorus, which is going to donate an electron at higher temperature. It acts as a donor. This is the conduction band energy level. This is the valence band energy level. So in the energy band spectrum or band diagram, if you see, nearer to the conduction band, we can have donor energy level. Donor level is occupied corresponding to the phosphorus atom that is going to donate an electron at higher temperature. So it acts as a donor. That is what we have to understand. So the energy level of the donor, that is the ED level, is finally occupied by all the electrons. So this diagram shows that. This is all at 0 K. So when you try to increase the temperature more than 0 K, then the bound electron becomes a free electron and enters into the conduction band. So as a result, the donor levels get ionized. If you take at a still higher temperature, breakage of covalent bond takes place and it releases as an electron hole pair. That is, electrons, that means when the temperature is raised at a higher temperature, covalent bond breaks and breakage of covalent bond releases an electron hole pair. That is, electrons move from valence band to conduction band, leaving holes in the valence band. So that is very interesting feature. So as a result, concentration of electron increases in the conduction band rather than holes. Therefore, electrons become majority charge carriers here and holes become minority charge carriers. That is concentration of electrons, that is N, it is greater than the concentration of holes. So this is about N-type extrinsic semiconductor. So I am just recapping. When the temperature is increased to more than 0 K, then the bound electron becomes a free electron and enters into the conduction band. So as a result, the donor level gets ionized. At still higher temperature, breakage of covalent bond releases an electron-hole pair, that is, electrons move from valence band to conduction band, leaving holes in the valence band. That means concentration of electron increases in the conduction band rather than holes. Hence, electrons become majority charge carriers and holes become minority charge carriers. That is, concentration of electrons is greater than the concentration of holes. That means N is greater than P. That's why it is N-type. Now let us look at P-type extrinsic semiconductor, that is positive type. So when you give a small amount of trivalent, that is valency 3, when you add a small amount of trivalent impurity like boron or indium or aluminium, if it is added to pure silicon crystal, then the boron settles at one of the silicon atoms position. This boron will try to form 3 covalent bonds with the neighboring silicon atoms, and one bond is left over with the deficiency of an electron. That is, a hole is created at this position. Since boron is in a position to accept the electron, it accepts as an acceptor. I am repeating. We are trying to add a trivalent impurity compound like boron to the silicon crystal, pure silicon. Then the boron settles to one of the silicon atoms position. This boron will try to form 3 covalent bonds with the neighboring silicon atoms, and one bond is left over with the deficiency of an electron. That is, a hole is created at this position. Since boron is in a position to accept an electron, it acts as an acceptor. So therefore, correspondingly, we have an acceptor level near the valence bond. Right? Let us look at the energy band. This is the energy band diagram. Since boron is in a position to accept an electron and is acting as an acceptor, therefore you will have an acceptor level. Here EA is energy of the acceptor level near the valence band. Now when the temperature is raised, what will happen we shall see. So when the temperature is raised just greater than 0 Kelvin, the electrons from the valence band try to occupy the acceptor and it gets ionized, creating holes in the valence band. If the temperature is further increased, then due to the breakage of covalent bonds, electrons enter into the conduction band, leaving more holes in the valence band. So as a result, the holes become majority carriers, right? And electrons become minority carriers. That is, here P is greater than N. Again I am recapping. When the temperature is raised just above 0 K, the electrons from the valence band try to occupy the acceptor and it gets ionized, creating holes in the valence band. If the temperature is further raised, for example 300 K, if the temperature is further increased, then due to breakage of covalent bonds, electrons enter into the conduction band, leaving more holes in the valence band. So as a result, what happens? Holes become majority carriers and electrons become minority carriers. Quite opposite to the N type. Therefore here P is more. So therefore P is greater than N. P is nothing but holes concentration. N is nothing but electron concentration. P is more than N means holes are majority carriers. N means electrons are minority carriers. This is how P-type extrinsic semiconductor is all about. If you look at the Fermi energy level, And also try to recollect the Fermi energy level in intrinsic semiconductor. There EF is always simply EC plus EV by 2. That is always lying in the middle. That is in the case of intrinsic semiconductor. Because there is no discussion of majority carrier concept that took place in intrinsic semiconductor. But in extrinsic semiconductor, we are using the concept called majority carriers. So, what the majority carriers concept is all about, we are saying in n-type extrinsic semiconductor, electrons are majority carriers and holes are minority carriers. In p-type extrinsic semiconductor, holes are majority carriers and electrons are minority carriers. So in that case, EC plus EV by 2, which is the value of Fermi energy level, is not applicable to extrinsic. EC plus EV by 2, that is EF, that is a Fermi energy level, is applicable only to intrinsic. Whereas in extrinsic, because you brought the concept of majority and minority, the formula varies a little bit. That is, if you look at the Fermi energy level in n-type, it is like this. EF is equal to EC minus KBT log NC by ND. NC is the pseudo constant. What is ND here? Here you use the concept of donor. Therefore, ND refers to the concentration of donor atoms. Similarly, in p-type, here holes are majority carriers. So therefore, it is an acceptor approach. So the formula varies as EF is equal to EV plus KBT log NV is again pseudo constant. Na is the term. Na means concentration of acceptor atoms. So there is a little bit of formula difference between extrinsic and intrinsic as far as Fermi energy level is concerned. Because if you see the previous diagrams of energy bands in n-type and p-type extrinsic semiconductors, you might have observed that the Fermi level is varying in the case of n-type as well as p-type. It's not lying in the middle. So there is movement of Fermi energy level based on temperature. Therefore, let us try to understand what are the effects of temperature on Fermi energy level. So if you take an n-type semiconductor, as the temperature is increased, more number of electron-hole pairs are formed. At a very high temperature, the concentration of thermally generated electrons in the conduction band, they will be far greater than the concentration of donor electrons. So in such a case, as concentration of electrons and holes become equal, the semiconductor becomes essentially an intrinsic semiconductor, and therefore the Fermi energy level returns to the middle of the forbidden energy gap. Therefore, that is, coming to middle of forbidden gap means what? We can say that because the temperature of p-type and n-type semiconductor increases, the Fermi energy level progressively move towards the middle of the forbidden gap. That means there is a variation in the position of forbidden gap. Now, with that background, having seen the effects of temperature on the Fermi level, we will try to understand the law of mass action. We know that the electron as well as hole concentration in an intrinsic semiconductor are already computed earlier. This is electron carrier concentration and this is hole carrier concentration. These two equations we got earlier. And also we know that carrier concentrations of both electrons and holes are equal. That is what is referred as Ni. Therefore, by substituting these two here, what we will get? We will get the intrinsic carrier concentration like this. What it refers? This relation shows that for any arbitrary value of EF, the product of N and P is a constant. This conclusion is what is known as law of mass action. So the electron and hole concentrations in an extrinsic semiconductor are already calculated. Like when you look at these two equations, these are related to intrinsic. Similarly, for extrinsic, how you get? Only thing is you have n-type and p-type. Therefore, for extrinsic, the electron and hole concentration similar to those two equations can be represented like this. Only thing is, instead of N and P, we will have Nn and Pn. That is, in N-type, hole concentration and electron concentration. So if you take the product of these two, so you will get like this. So N into P is Ni only, na? Therefore this becomes Nn is equal to Ni, Pn is equal to Ni. Therefore Nn into Pn product is nothing but Ni square. So the law of mass action can also be represented like this in the case of N-type. Now how we represent law of mass action in P-type, let us see. Very simple. Both are same. N-type as well as P-type, the law of mass action is one and the same. So if you look at these two equations for N-type and P-type, these equations, that is F7 and 8, what they imply? They imply that the product of majority and minority carrier concentrations in an extrinsic semiconductor at a particular temperature is equal to square of the intrinsic carrier concentration at that temperature. See, N and Pn equal to Ni square, Pp Np equal to Ni square. What is Ni? Ni is nothing but intrinsic carrier concentration. Ni square means square of intrinsic carrier concentration. What is Nn and what is Pn? Nn and Pn means majority and minority carrier concentrations. So you are multiplying in both cases. So therefore we can conclude that the product of majority and minority carrier concentration in an extrinsic semiconductor at a particular temperature is equal to the square of the intrinsic carrier concentration at that temperature. So you can represent the law of mass action like that. This law of mass action is a very important relation because it is in conjunction with the charge neutrality condition. I will explain charge neutrality condition a little bit later. Right now imagine that there is charge neutrality condition. So in conjunction with the charge neutrality condition, it enables us to calculate the minority carrier concentration. Therefore, this law suggests that addition of impurities to an intrinsic semiconductor increases the concentration of one type of carrier, which consequently becomes majority carrier, and simultaneously decrease the concentration of other carrier, which is as a result becomes the minority carrier. That means if you add any impurity to the intrinsic semiconductor, it is becoming extrinsic. So when it becomes extrinsic means it is either N-type or P-type. When you say N-type, electrons are becoming majority carriers and P-types are that is holes are becoming minority carriers. In P-type extrinsic semiconductor, holes are majority carriers, thereby electrons are becoming minority carriers. That we know now. The same thing I am putting in a separate statement, that this law of mass action is suggesting that the addition of impurities to an intrinsic semiconductor increases the concentration of one type of a carrier, which consequently becomes the majority carrier, and simultaneously decreases the concentration of other carrier, which as a result becomes the minority carrier. So the minority carriers decrease in number below the intrinsic value because the majority carriers increase the rate of recombinations. So the law of mass action states that the product of majority and minority carriers remains constant in an extrinsic semiconductor, and it is independent of amount of donor and acceptor impurity concentrations. We also have to note that here that when the doping is very heavy, the minority concentrations will be low, and if the doping is very lighter, the minority concentrations will be larger. This is what is to be understood. Now in this discussion I use the concept called charge neutrality condition. So I will explain the charge neutrality condition when we take up the concept of charge densities now. So if you look at charge densities, normally a semiconductor, whether intrinsic or extrinsic, generally is an electrically neutral body in equilibrium condition. A semiconductor, irrespective of its type like intrinsic or extrinsic, is electrically neutral body at equilibrium. So if you take an n-type semiconductor, the total number of electrons in the conduction band must be equal to the total number of electrons in the conduction band must be equal to sum of electrons originated from the donor atoms and electrons excited from the valence band. That is to be clearly understood. In an n-type semiconductor, the total number of electrons in the conduction band must be equal to sum of electrons originated from the donor atoms and electrons excited from the valence band. That is what it means. That is, electrons coming from donor levels leave behind a positive donor ions, while electrons excited from the other side, electrons excited from valence band, they leave behind some holes. So this is what we have to recap. Electrons coming from donor levels leave behind positive donor ions, whereas electrons excited from valence band leave behind holes. So these changes, they do not create any additional charge carriers, so that equality between positive and negative charges remains undisturbed. So this is what is called charge neutrality condition. So the donor and accept doesn't have any effect on this. So both the electrons coming from donor levels leave behind positive donor ions, whereas electrons excited from valence band also leave behind them some holes. So these changes, they do not create any additional charges, so that equality between positive and negative charges remains as it is, remains constant. That means it is not disturbed. That means it is undisturbed. That is what we call as the charge neutrality condition. So when you apply charge neutrality condition to the n-type semiconductor, it means that total negative charge of the moving electrons is equal to total positive charge created in the crystal. That you can represent as a formula like this. Nd is equal to small nd is equal to capital Nd plus Pn. Here capital Nd is the donor concentration. So therefore, the charge neutrality, if you take for a p-type, this is for n-type, but for a p-type, what you will have? You will have an equation like this. So instead of Nd, you will have Na. This Na is the acceptor concentration. But generally we know that in an n-type semiconductor, electrons are majority carriers, holes are minority carriers. Therefore, the concentration of electrons is much greater than concentration of holes. So from that equation, you can equate like this. Approximately equal to this. Right? So Nn is greater than Pn. That means Nn equal to Nd. So whereas Nn and Pn are what? These are electron and hole concentration in an n-type semiconductor. Therefore, if you apply the law of mass action on this, you will arrive at this equation. You will get as Pn equal to Ni square by Nd. This is the square of the carrier concentration. Here, this is much less than the concentration levels here. This is for the case of n-type. Similarly, if you look at p-type, you will get like this. In p-type, what is happening? See here. P-type, holes are majority carriers. So majority carriers, hole concentration is more than electron concentration. So therefore Pp is greater than Np. That is, Pp is nothing but Na except all. So that gives Np value as Ni square by Na. So this is much less than Pp or Na. So that means here Na, what is Na? Na is the concentration of acceptor impurities. What is Pp? Pp is the concentration of holes. What is Np? That is related to concentration of electrons in a p-type semiconductor. This is what we have to understand about charge densities in n-type and p-type semiconductors. So based on this, in the next session, we shall try to understand current transportation in extrinsic semiconductors. If you remember well, I told that the remarkable feature of extrinsic semiconductor is that it is bipolar, means the current is transported in them through two different processes, namely drift and diffusion. So we shall try to understand them in the next session. So what I have done so far is I just would like to summarize. In the current discussion, we tried to understand about extrinsic semiconductors depending on the type of impurity added to the intrinsic semiconductor. We tried to look at n-type extrinsic semiconductor at different temperatures and also p-type semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductor at different temperatures along with the energy band diagrams. Then we discussed about the Fermi energy level and what are the effects of temperature on this Fermi energy level. Simple way of understanding that is, in the case of extrinsic semiconductor, Fermi energy level is not static at the center of the energy gap. Fermi energy level progresses. That means it makes up and down journey in the energy gap. Whereas in intrinsic semiconductor, it is always Ec plus Ev by 2. That is in the middle of the energy gap. Whereas in extrinsic semiconductor, depending on n-type and p-type, the position of Fermi energy level varies. That is what we have to remember. So that we have understood by studying the effects of temperature on Fermi energy level. Then I have explained about what is law of mass action. And when we talked about charge neutrality condition, then we have discussed about charge densities in n-type and p-type semiconductors. This is what has been discussed in this session today. So in the next session, we shall focus on understanding of the current transport mechanisms in extrinsic semiconductors by the names drift and diffusion.